Rest condition. Well, this is not an encouraging color. Let's switch. Yep, rest condition. So let's assume you have a data source, and this data source contains an object of the value 4. And let's say on the side, there is a process called add1, whose purpose is to add 1 to the value that is supplied to it from the data source and update the data source. So add1 can access the data source and it can return value from the data source. So let's say add1 is invoked, goes to the data source, fetches the value that is in the data source, adds 1 to that value, in this case adding 1 to 4, then returns the value to the data source and updates the data source. Let's say we have another process, subtract1, called sub1 here, and sub1 has the same privileges to the data source as those of add1. So when sub1 is invoked, it goes to the data source, fetches the data, subtracts 1 from that value, then updates the data source. So let's say add1 and subtract1 are invoked at exactly the same time. So they will go to the data source, fetch the value that they find in the data source, update it accordingly. So add1 adds 1 to 4 and the result is 5. Sub1 subtracts 1 from 4 and the result is 3. Let's say add1 is quicker in performing its operation than subtract1. So add1 will return the value to the data source quickly and update the data source to 5. Then subtract1 returns the value that it has and updates the data source to 3. So this is rest condition because the value that we expect in the data source is 4, because originally we had 4 in the data source. If you add 1 to it, you should get 5, then subtract 1, you should get 4. Or the other way around, if we had 4, you subtract 1, you get 3, then when you add 1, you should get 4. So in either way, we expect the value in the data source to be 4. But it is not 4. It is 3. 3 is not 4. This is what we call rest condition. So, what is rest condition? Rest condition in programming is a bug that occurs when multiple threads or processes access a shared resource at the same time, causing unexpected behavior.